I'm a savage! Oh! I'm a savage! Whatever I want, I'm going to get! Whatever I want, I have to get!
Something massive just cracked open in Hollywood. It's not a rumor. It's not some vague Reddit thread. It's a federal courtroom. And this time, the names aren't being whispered. They're being read aloud under oath, in front of a jury. Day 5 of the Diddy trial didn't just peel back the curtain, it ripped it off entirely. For years, people suspected there was a dark, interconnected web tying music mogul actors and billionaires together. Now, we're finally seeing who was actually behind it. And what's surfacing? It's uglier than anyone imagined. The public has always seen Diddy as a flashy tycoon, lavish parties, expensive suits, big names on speed dial. But beneath that polished surface, investigators are uncovering decades of abuse, manipulation, and disturbing allegations that involve more than just one man. And the scariest part, it seems like half of Hollywood either helped him, protected him, or looked the other way as jury selection kicked off in Diddy's federal trial. Something bizarre happened, something that sent a chill through the entertainment industry. Prospective jurors weren't just being asked about their knowledge of Diddy or the charges against him. Instead, they were handed a list of over 100 names, a who's who of Hollywood. Royalty on that list: Kanye West, Michael B., Jordan, Ashton, Kutcher, Steve Harvey, and more. Now, officially, these celebrities aren't facing any charges, but if they had nothing to do with the case, why were their names brought up at all? Prosecutors claimed. The list was meant to gauge bias to see if jurors could stay impartial. But no one explained why these particular names were included. And that's where the questions start piling up. Because the deeper you dig, the more obvious it becomes that this wasn't some random roll call. This was a signal that this trial isn't just about Diddy. It's about the people who stood next to him, the ones who cheered him on, covered for him, or profited from his silence. And now, their names are surfacing in the very courtroom they hoped to avoid. It didn't take long for Hollywood to start pulling away, almost like clockwork. The closer Diddy's trial crept, the more his former allies vanished from the public eye. Ashton Kutcher had gone. Will Smith, Quiet Bishop T.D. Jake Jakes, stepping down. Justin Bieber suddenly issuing statements, and none of them were standing by. Diddy at first, it looked like coincidence, but the pattern was too clean to ignore. These weren't just random exits from the spotlight. They were strategic disappearances. People were distancing themselves to survive. Ashton Kutcher, once seen at every white party. Diddy threw quietly, pulled back years ago. Will Smith, who's been linked to Diddy's inner circle through parties. And disturbing, rumors publicly denied any connection, almost too emphatically. T. Jake, a longtime friend and spiritual guide to celebrities, announced he was stepping away from leadership just 3 days before the trial began. His reason, health, but no one's buying that anymore. And then there's Justin Bieber, a name that's haunted by whispers. His team came out with a carefully crafted statement claiming he was not a victim, but made sure to add that others had suffered just enough to acknowledge the fire. Without stepping into it, this isn't loyalty, it's self-preservation. Because in a case, this big silence is no longer neutral. It's evidence, right? When things were heating up, something chilling happened. A key witness disappeared, one of the male sex. Workers who reportedly handed over explicit tapes to federal agents. Gone, no explanation, no trace, just vanished. And if that sounds familiar, it's because it is. People who followed high-profile trials know this pattern. Remember the Tory Lanez case. A bodyguard whose DNA was found on the weapon also vanished days before he was supposed to testify in these circles. Silence isn't always a choice, It's forced insiders are already speculating that similar tactics are at play here behind the scenes. Diddy's defense team is allegedly doing everything possible to reshape public perception, lighten his image, scrub the past, reframe the narrative. But these disappearing witnesses, the timing of celebrity withdrawals, the shifting PR tone, it all feels like a coordinated effort to protect something much bigger than one man. This isn't just about saving Diddy. It's about shielding an entire machine that's been running unchecked for decades. A machine built on silence, secrets, and people who vanish. When they know too much on the surface, Diddy was the definition of success. Wealthy, connected, and always in control. But behind the scenes, people who knew him say the truth was far uglier. According to multiple sources, Diddy has been using MDMA, commonly known as ecstasy, for over 20 years. It's known as the love drug, but for him it reportedly warped everything, especially his boundaries when it came to sex and control. Those closest to the case say, this wasn't just recreational drug use. This was chronic addictive and paired with power, a dangerous mix that allegedly fed into his descent into sexual deviance in Hollywood. That combination isn't rare. What makes Diddy's case terrifying is the scale of it, and the number of people who may have known and said nothing. And it wasn't just the party's actor. Terrence Howard once claimed that the entire industry is soaked in pressure and abuse, with people forced into situations they never agreed to, just to stay relevant. The deeper the success, the darker the compromise in that world, Diddy didn't stand out as an anomaly. He fit right in. Demi Moore knows trauma. She's spoken openly about being exploited as a child, abused, manipulated, and even sold by her own mother at 15 for $500. That kind of betrayal doesn't just haunt a person, it defines them. And yet, somehow years later, Demi Moore became a regular at Diddy's infamous parties, surrounded by the very kind of darkness she once escaped. But it gets worse. Moore was married to Ashton Kutcher, one of Diddy's closest associates in the early 2000s. Ashton wasn't just a guest at the parties, he was part of the inner circle. Multiple insiders have described him as a freak, someone who knew exactly what was going on behind closed doors. Then a video resurfaced, one no one was supposed to see in it. A visibly intoxicated Demi Moore is shown kissing a 14-year-old boy during a promotional event in the 1980s. At the time, she was an adult and married. These aren't isolated incidents. They're patterns. Ashton has already come under fire for writing letters of support for Danny Masterson, a convicted arpist and Kutcher's longtime friend. Now people are asking the obvious, why were these people so drawn to Diddy? And why? Were they always around when things got questionable? The connections are starting to look less like coincidence and more like complicity. There's something haunting about watching Justin Bieber now, the once bright-eyed teen star who was everywhere. On red carpets, award shows, late night, talk shows. Now appears distant, unsettled. And people are starting to realize it might not be just fame, fatigue, it might be trauma. Bieber's relationship with Diddy has long raised eyebrows. He was underage, yet often seen partying with the mogul. Old videos have resurfaced clips of them joking about picking up girls and staying out all night. One moment on Jimmy Kimmel shows Diddy talking about giving Bieber a Lamborghini and letting him hang out in his mansion. The tone is light, but the implication, anything. But now, Bieber's reps say he wasn't one of Diddy's victims, but they also didn't deny that others were. It's a classic deflection, and it raises more questions than answers. Meanwhile, Ashton Kutcher's own mask continues to slip after longtime friend Danny Masterson was convicted of rape in 2023, Ashton and his wife, Monis, submitted letters defending his character. These weren't casual acquaintances. Kutcher was allegedly close enough to joke about making out with a 14-year-old Mila back when she was still a teen star. The idea that runs through all of this, a chilling one, repeated by insiders like Taryn Howard. Once you give up your man card, you don't get it back. It's not just about masculinity, it's about dignity, agency, and the parts of yourself you sacrificed to belong. The guilt, the shame, it sticks. That's why so many turn to drugs, chaos, or worse. They're not just trying to forget what was done to them. They're trying to forget what they did, to stay in, and for some, like Bieber, it's clear those memories still haunt them for decades. Steve Harvey built an empire on family values, faith, and fatherhood. But now, his name is surfacing in places it was never supposed to be. Court documents, blackmail rumors, and Diddy's inner circle of silence. Back in 2019, Diddy made headlines for dating Steve's daughter, Lori Harvey, a relationship that many wrote off as just another tabloid moment. But those who were paying attention now believe it was something far more disturbing, because around the same time, Diddy's son was also dating Lori, and allegedly Diddy treated her like an ATM machine, not a partner. The whispers Steve pushed Lori toward Diddy to maintain influence in the industry, and even worse, sources claimed Diddy invited Steve to one of his infamous freak-offs back in the late 90s and filmed what happened. What kind of footage? No one saying out loud. But the phrase compromising position keeps surfacing again and again. The implication Steve Harvey has been blackmailed for over 2 decades, not just with rumors, but with tapes, and it explains a lot. The public silence, the awkward interview.